It's the vlogging Colonel. This is the Colonel's vlog. Welcome everyone. Here today, under the site of the old, was currently the Central State Hospital. I believe back in the day it was the Lakeland or Lakeford Insane Asylum, which would have been a towering, imposing structure. A real insane asylum in the classical sense of the word. And right underneath it is this, the old Sauerkraut Cave. Now it's been barred it off about a year ago. This used to be an area where, and still is, people would come, kids mainly, graffiti, smoke joints. In fact, when we came here, that was happening. But it was happening here, outside. So over all of this, and all the way down to the pond, you'll see the old retaining walls infrastructure. So there's a pond out there, and if you were up there in the asylum, you would have been able to kind of look down at the water, as it were. And I'll try to shine a light in there as best I can. There are bats in here, for sure. Let's see if I can turn this thing up. How do I turn this thing up? Here it is. It's as far in as you can get, unless you go in through the other end, where I think you have to basically bellow crawl. It's more like spelunking. If you go in from that end, you can see down there kind of an old, I don't know if you can see it at the bottom of that brick column, old metal infrastructure. And over here, let's see if I can turn the other way. Down here, there's a channel that goes back into the cave with cold water. And so, as you go back there, it becomes a true cave in the true sense. Up here, it's a little bit more hollowed out, or it's got the infrastructure here from under the insane asylum. But if you go way back there, you will come to straight up caves, somewhere you have to crawl. They built this metal gate about 1.5 years ago to keep people out for the purpose of, in their words, preserving a beetle. There's a cave beetle, particular cave beetle that dwells in this cave. 3 caves, I believe. This is the one where most of them live. Also salamanders, some bats. Right above where we're standing now is a 550-acre piece of land called Tom Sawyer Park, EP Tom Sawyer Park. But it was once the estate of the mental hospital here in Louisville. In 1869, the state legislature issued an order for a boys' reformatory school, and then due to influxes of mental patients at the other hospitals around the state, they repurposed this property solely as a lunatic asylum, and it was known as the Central Kentucky Lunatic Asylum in 1874, 64, somewhere in there. Conditions were bad. The grand jury actually indicted several employees for assaulting patients. One was charged with murder for submerging one in a bathtub. And by the 90s, this had been renamed. But this Sauerkraut Cave here, not much to see now because we can't get in there. It played a central role. It was located in the wood behind the archery fields currently. And before refrigeration, this was what they used for food storage and housing the barrels of sauerkraut for the patients. There's brick pillars, a trench on the left that we just looked at. Crystals coat the ceiling, but we can't get back far enough really to see those currently. And at some point after the park closed, people came exploring. They found barrels of sauerkraut in there. That's where it got the name, Sauerkraut Cave. And that's it. And there's a lot of dark stories of kids. Kids would run away, try to run away, escape through the tunnels, which would have been ill-advised, because all of them died. Of course, you would have had zero light. And it's a complex of caves. Most of Kentucky is. So when you get down there, freezing cold water, zero light, tons of dead ends. There's a lot of young bodies, according to legend, that are still in there. And even more sinister, the female patients of the asylum, of course, would have been tasked with some of the housekeeping, kitchen work, and of course this was their refrigerator under here. And there were a lot of assaults of female inmates, some quite brutal, and they were apparently carried out frequently and with no one to hear them scream. And it's hard to kind of imagine, because I've been in a hospital at one point similar to this. It's not where you want to be. We're going to walk around. I've actually done most of the vlog because most of my time here today has been spent recording the search for this. I couldn't figure out where it was. It's not listed per se exactly where it is, other than here in front of the archery field somewhere. I've walked all around the pond. So we will end this video where it is now beginning, having found this cave. But join me as we try to find this cave. Now, let's go. So here we've got some foundations related to the old asylum building right here off of this putrid looking pond. We're close to the cave. I believe they have it fenced off, but we'll try to get in there if there's a obvious entry and I don't have to willfully pass a no trespassing. I will attempt it. If the only way in is right next to no trespassing sign, I will try to find another way. So these would have been, I don't know the layout of the old asylum. You know what they say about stairs in the woods, state parks, you should never climb them. And I just did, and I'm going to again. These would be old infrastructure from the original insane asylum. Now this metal, I'm thinking this is probably from the gates that they built to protect the cave, although it could be older and something to do with the original asylum. This looks like train. I want to get this camera where it just does what I want it to do. That's my goal with it. It looks almost like railway tie. And here's the foundation. So this is all old building foundation here, right on the edge of this pond. Stones down here. Some original bricks over here. Some walls have fallen in. But yeah, this was all part of the original insane asylum, which was notorious for its lack of humanity across the charts. Of course, when you think of insane asylums, it's typically the thought process anyway. But here they would have done everything from lobotomies to ripping out all of your teeth to rape and abuse and other things. It looks like right here there's a sort of footing maybe, I don't know. Here's a opening in the fence. There's no trespassing signs or anything that I can see. So we'll go in right here. It's kind of the other half of the some more infrastructure down here. Not sure what any of this was. Definitely very old foundational infrastructure for whatever went through here. Don't know where the cave is from here, but I'm going to keep looking for it. I'm guessing it's somewhere around this pond. I'm going to consult my Google map and see if I can get my bearing. Be right back. Interesting. It's kind of weird being out here. Of course, it's pretty heavily populated area. I passed a couple of people getting to where I am now. But some of you won't know. It's kind of special for me. Not in a good way. But when I was a teenager, my father had some issues, and I became the brunt. And eventually ended up being sent to, in Georgia, kind of the same thing, but Central State Hospital in Georgia, Milledgeville, Georgia. Most of that is all shut down. Would love to get down there sometime, but I spent time in Central State. Took me there in a bus, and pulled up to this massive, terrifying building. And once I was inside, it's everything you would kind of imagine it to be. Long, institutional hallways, fluorescent lights, people screaming, sound of a couple of TVs and radios. There were bubble rooms, padded rooms, And I was sent to the, I guess, adolescent wing, which some might argue is better, some might argue it's worse than the adult facility. It's hard to say. For me, it was terrible. I was there for probably 2 months. Maybe a little more, a little less. A certain sense of despair comes with it. Hello. Hey, buddy. And you can sort of get a feeling of that here. You can only imagine. Once I was locked away, that's it. It's kind of like being in jail, except there's no sentence. There's no court date. Nothing. Keep you there as long as they want. Every day. That makes every day feel infinitely longer. Really a traumatic experience, to say the least. It's a dreary place. You could only imagine. If you look up there, you can see that's where we were. The structures were over there. There's an old telephone pole still. Very old telephone pole. But you can imagine an insane asylum looming in an area like this. Not a pretty picture. And back then, so much worse than it was even when I had to deal with that in the 2000s. Now, for those wondering, I was fine. I was not diagnosed with depression or ADHD or psychopathy or narcissism or sociopathy or just an angry kid because of a really crappy situation. And I was lucky that at that time it was the 2000s and not the 1900s. Because then I might have never made it back out. And that's a fact. Look at this tree. It's beautiful. Struck my lightning or just fell right off. I don't know. That was a big tree. Look at that tree. Some more remnants here. This is a little fire hydrant that would have serviced the asylum. This is the creek bed. If my understanding is correct, I'm not entirely sure. I believe over there is where the foundations and steps we walked down earlier. I believe that the insane asylum would have stood about right there on that hill. It was overlooking this pond. Back then, despite their exceptional appetite for cruelty, they did believe that water had a positive healing effect on patients, which I assume you would have needed when you're having your teeth ripped out an ice pick shoved through your head. This is obviously a man-made drainage ditch. So old retaining wall. So it's possible the structure would have been over here. Again, I'm not entirely sure. This area is pretty overgrown. And their desire is to keep people out of here, so they do not advertise. But I'm going to go ahead and walk the rest of the way around. Maybe I'll find it over there, the entrance to Sauerkraut Cave. But I've certainly already found plenty of relics of the old asylum here. You can see concrete slabs that have fallen down into the... Here's definitely old brick retaining wall here. That old brick. All of this certainly was related to the structures that were here. The modern, what was the Lakeland Insane Asylum, it still exists. They moved it right over there. We'll drive by on the way out of here and get a peek of it. But it does still exist. It's now just known as Central State Hospital. So it has continued, even though this old building and all of the structures from this era of inhumanity are long gone. And I wish I could have found it. And I know that I'm standing right over or next to it. No, I'm very close to the entrance. A lot of people say you need to wear some good shoes, and I have on Crocs to access it. So might have required me walking through a mud puddle or two. But one day, hopefully, we will find it. There's some more walls. Old retainer wall. This is where we were on the other side of this. Now, because there is a sign right here, I could walk back around and find it from the other side. I believe that it's right down in there, which is heavily overgrown. But I think somewhere in the wall here is the old Sauerkraut Cave. It's definitely between here and where I stood earlier. You can see over there some more old infrastructure, sewage and drainage or whatever. So we're close. I could go back around the lake and come out there without passing no trespassing signs. And I believe if I were to go over there and cut in, I would find it. And that's not to say it would be easily accessible, but might do that. Guess I'm not in any hurry. I could get my steps in today. That certainly wouldn't help. I can always use all the steps I can get. So I'm gonna walk back around, give it one more try before I call it quits. See you in a minute. So there's where all those ruins are. And I've been looking around the pond, but this all goes underwater. So I've been around, unless it's hidden like right here underneath where it's super overgrown. See, it's got to be in here somewhere. This is definitely all land, low land that goes underwater or has been underwater at some point. And every season's kind of a rainy season in Louisville. And there it is. Found it. Somebody's there. I think they may be doing a vlog of their own. So give them some space. Ladies and gentlemen, we found it. We have found the Sauerkraut Cave. And that does mean that all of that would have been where the asylum stood at one point in time. So we'll give this gentleman a moment. Yeah, over there is where the trespassing sign was. Over there are the ruins. And directly behind me is the archery range right over that area. So found it. I'm trying not to disturb these people. I believe these buildings are remnants, turn my AC off, of the insane asylum infrastructure. I don't know if this would have been boarding. It looks like it would have been some sort of boarding. We were just down there. That's where the cave is, and over here is where the asylum building, the main asylum building, would have stood once upon a time. But these currently used as the maintenance department for the park were once upon a time part of the asylum complex, and they all look like they might have housed people at one point. They just have those rows of windows. Could have been something else, could have been shop or the gardening, horticulture, I don't know. Chickens, I don't know, you tell me. Over here, right down there, right, if you were to go right there, is the entrance to that cave. Actually found a historical marker here. Lakeland Asylum, in 1873, the 4th Kentucky State Mental Hospital was established here. From a single brick building housing 370 patients grew a campus of 15 buildings and 5,000 patients, including a working farm and orchards built in the Tudor and classical revival styles. A hospital to cure the incurable. It's the main building of the Central State Hospital in 33. The 4th Kentucky Asylum assigned to it only chronic cases and such that were deemed incurable. I mean, look at that. That would have been, you would see the very top of it way over this hill. So on the other side of this hill is that pond we were walking around. Beyond that is the cave, and above that would have been this imposing, nightmarish institution. That was the dining hall. And it was built, I think, for 3,500 people, something like that. And they packed it with thousands more. It was completely overcrowded. Would have been a nightmare. This is something interesting. Right across, look at that little house. From the asylum property where we were just looking at the marker, there's all these like miniature houses right across the road. Like they're big houses, but they're like miniature versions of big houses. Like this one here. They're little bitty houses. Look at that. Somebody lives in there. Look at that. I'm wondering if this had something to do maybe with the institution. Maybe special patients could live, or maybe staff. But like, look, that's like a normal sized house, but it's small. Look at the tiny little upstairs on that. Look at that one over there, hidden back there. What the heck? Look at this. And you might not come across on camera. Those are tiny little houses. What the heck? So I'm on right outside of Anchorage, coming up on the current asylum, and I'll get a better view. Still tripping out about those tiny houses. What was that? I'm just like, with the woods so big that now I feel like everything's tiny. Am I going to go home to a tiny house? I don't know. But anyway, we're right outside of Anchorage here. I'm going to try to get some good shots. I don't want to loiter too long around an insane asylum because I don't want to become a patient. It's one of my greatest fears in life, is waking up again one day and held against my will. But I think it's right here past the Willow Tavern here. I think we're coming up on it. And this will be, there's the other entrance to the Lakeland Road. And this is the current insane asylum, mental hospital they call them now. They don't like those old nomenclatures. This is it. It's the current mental hospital. I'll pull in there. Screw it. Central State Hospital. This kind of gives me the creeps. Don't like these places. I don't see anything saying that I can't be here and film. So there's a trailer over there that says the Kentucky Coroners Association, which is not a that's not an encouraging thing to see. I'm curious why they would need a coroner trailer at a mental hospital. You just call them when you need them. Is death that frequent here? But yeah, Coroners Association. What in the world? I'm trying to keep my camera somewhat low, but once I get where I can see something interesting, I will let you know. We'll let you see. And right now, as we speak, there are many people in here being held against their will in this asylum, or as they like to call it, hospital. I'm sure there'll be some people that get mad and say they help people, and I'm sure in some cases they do. But they also hurt people. I know that for a fact, because that is the universal truth when it comes to places that you can be detained against your will, unable to leave or have autonomy unless someone else signs off or allows you. It's always going to be some abuse. Well, folks, that does it. This is your Colonel here at the current Lakeland Mental Institution, whatever the heck it's called, Central State Hospital, Lake Ford, Lakeland, Lakefront, whatever. I'm getting out of here. This vlog is about to flee right now till we see each other again.